Hi there, Mary again. Welcome to episode 5 of Keto Coach. Today I'm going to be addressing some of the keto lies and myths that people throw at us. Before I begin, though, I wanted to make a distinction. Keto is low carb, but low carb is not necessarily keto. Keto is very specifically very low carb, moderate protein, high fat, whereas low carb, high fat, and low carb could mean many different things. There's low carb, low fat, which is miserable, by the way. There is low carb, high fat, which is great, but that could also be several more carbs than what keto would be. There's low carb, high protein, and low carb can be as many as 150 grams of carbs a day, which that's not low carb to me, but it's all relative because that's probably low carb to somebody who used to eat like 3 times as many carbs as that. So anyway, I just want to remind everyone that when I'm talking, basically I'm addressing all of us people who are metabolically damaged, people with insulin resistance, people who are battling obesity, maybe you're battling type 2 diabetes, basically anyone with a metabolic disorder. I'm talking to you. So let's see. What is one keto lie that we hear all the time? Keto's unsustainable. Really? Why? Why is it unsustainable? What is so unsustainable about eating real food? Eating keto is very sustainable. I've sustained it for over 2 years. What wasn't sustainable for me? Weight Watchers, Slim Fast, Phentermine, very low calorie was not sustainable. Extreme exercising, and none of that was sustainable. So I'm over 2 years on keto, and in fact, the only thing that I ever sustained longer than keto was obesity. I mean, that's real simple to sustain. I recently saw a comment on Facebook about, someone said keto was extreme and that it was not sustainable. So to that I say, bull. The only reason it's not sustainable for some people is because they choose for it not to be. They are choosing to go back to carbs. They don't want to give up carbs and sugar for life, so they say they can't, and therefore that equals not sustainable. But that's just not true. It's totally sustainable for anybody who wants it to be. It's, you don't have to suffer to do it. It's not like a regular, diet, like in the traditional sense of the word, meaning it's not something you do for the short term. There's no suffering involved. It's fairly simple to follow. Another lie people tell all the time, we see this all the time online, is that keto isn't safe in the long term. You shouldn't do it more than 6 months because you'll do irreparable harm to your brain, you'll damage your kidneys, all these terrible things will happen because of all that fat. So I'm sorry, but that's just wrong. That's wrong. What is harmful about eating real food? There's nothing harmful about eating real food. What exactly is going to harm your body if you eat fresh vegetables and you use butter and you use heavy cream and you eat meat with the fat on it? Nothing, horrible is going to happen. This ties into like the not being sustainable thing. Look, there are people who have sustained this way of eating for many, many years. Like Dr. Stephen Finney, I think has been at least 15 years, probably longer. I can't remember, but I know it's been at least 15 years. Christine Cronow, she's a big low carb, high fat, proponent, advocate in Australia. She's been keto, low carb, high fat over 14 years. She's raised her children on it, and they're all perfectly healthy. And like I said, I'm over 2 years now, and I plan to continue it because my body loves the way I feed it. It reacts well. People always bring up the cholesterol thing, and I had my cholesterol checked back in March, early March, right around like the day before my 2-year ketoversary. My total cholesterol was 139, and my triglycerides, which are, a true teller of your condition, we're only 55. And that's with 70 to 80, 85%, sometimes more of my calories from dietary fat. So either I'm, some sort of special snowflake, no, or some scientific anomaly, no. The concerns are basically bunk. So I don't even feel like I should have to say this, but again, obviously I'm talking about the rule, not the exception. I do understand that there are certain people out there, a very, 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 very small segment of people that have some rare disorders that I can't even pronounce, that, can't safely do keto or shouldn't do keto. Okay. Again, I am talking to the average, metabolically deranged folks out there, okay? And the average relatively healthy folks who could benefit from eating keto. All right, so the other lie, which is my biggest pet peeve, is that, all that fat is unhealthy, and that goes along with supposedly, the keto experts that say in order to lose body fat, your plate fat has to be, lower, and that you also need to increase your protein. And I say experts, okay? I'm not talking about Dr. Finney and Volek or any of the other, mainstream keto people. None of them say that we should be low fat and high protein. So first of all, let me remind you that by definition, keto is high fat, and that can be anywhere from 65% to and up on dietary fat on your plate, and no more than 30% protein. Dr. Finney and Volek say more than 30% protein is not ketogenic, and it's not necessary to have more than 30% protein because it's counterproductive. And then carbs, of course, 5%. So the high fat is necessary for healing. So again, if you're like me, or if you are someone who's battling obesity, insulin resistant, type 2 diabetic, maybe you have PCOS, or any combination of metabolic disorders that you need to heal from, then you need to follow keto on the high fat end. You need high dietary fat in order to heal, to get your blood sugar under control, lower your insulin, and not have to suffer while you are trying to lose weight and become not obese. The fat's necessary for all of that. There are people in the keto world who are pushing a one-size-fits-all, brand of keto, pushing the line of lower plate fat, and they do it. I mean, it's just flat out fear mongering. They do it with gusto, and it's just mainstream diet dogma that they haven't let go of, that they're hanging on to for some reason. That you can't lose weight on 80% fat. Well, I'm here to say that you can. As of this week, I'm now, instead of 105 pounds, 105 something pounds, I'm down another net 1.2. And that is every day eating 70 to 85% fat, or even more some days. Yesterday I had over 200 grams of fat, and that's not normal for me, but I ate pork belly and it was worth every fat gram. Anyway, so I just, I call BS on that. You can lose weight eating that much fat on your plate. And of course, that's in conjunction with, 85% fat on your plate. Obviously, you can't eat all day long. We've had this discussion before that you need to be reasonable about your portions, that if you're eating more than two, well-formulated, low-carb, high-fat meals in a day, that you're probably eating too much food. Too much food equates to, too much insulin, and then the insulin stores fat. So the problem is not too much fat. It's too much food. I don't know, how many times I can say that. So that's not the problem. Too much fat is not the problem. There's a great article on dietdoctor.com that you should check out. It's called "It's the Insulin, Stupid." It's a great article, and it talks all about this issue. Anyway, so the people that push the lower fat, high protein line, their advice is potentially dangerous for people like me, who are metabolically damaged. It's dangerous because not enough fat and too much protein can just screw you up metabolically. You won't heal your insulin resistance that way. You will keep your blood sugar elevated, your insulin high. It also keeps you in, if you're not eating enough fat, you're in danger of being too hungry, which then equates to eating more often, which then equates to too much insulin because you're eating too much food. There's all these reasons for, keeping dietary fat high. So if you're not metabolically damaged, you're a normal weight, or you want to get ripped and have muscles, or if you plan on doing a bikini show or going to some, bodybuilding show, which I never plan to do, obviously, then by all means, follow the lower fat, higher protein protocol. You probably have nothing to worry about. But to say that this is the way everybody should do it is ridiculous. If you need to heal, you need the high fat. That's the bottom line. There's no question about it. In order to heal, you need higher dietary fat. Period. End of story. So, I don't know. Look, I don't have abs. I know that, and would I love some? Sure. But I'm not going to go damage my health to get them. Besides that, losing 106 pounds, and I was severely apple shaped. I totally carried, fat around my middle. The skin on my abdomen is it's loose. It's jacked up. So there's no bikini show in my future. And if you want abs, then again, by all means, go listen to the people that have abs and try to copy them. That's your choice. I'm just here to help the average gal or guy, heal from their metabolic damage, feel better, and look better just in general. You can achieve that with keto, being high fat. So let's just end the diet dogma and the brainwashing regarding fat. It's totally unnecessary. And I shouldn't even have to say this, but do I need to say I'm talking about healthy fats and animal protein, eating eggs, coconut oil, butter, heavy cream. I'm not talking about deep fried breaded foods, obviously. I'm not talking about your typical high fat, sad, standard American diet. No vegetable or man-made oils. Those are not healthy fats. You eat healthy fats, avocados, okay? So I don't think I need to say that, being high fat doesn't mean you throw a whole stick of butter in your coffee. That's totally unnecessary. Just eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satisfied. And, don't eat for any other reason. So, okay, one last thing. This business of don't drink your fat. It makes me crazy. One of the reasons people stall or gain is, it's not just because they're increasing their fat. It's because when they increase their fat, they're typically increasing carbs and or protein, both of them, one or both of them at the same time. So I'm sorry, but drinking your fat is the best way to make sure that your fat is high enough without increasing carbs and without increasing protein. So drink your fat. It's totally okay to do that. And this garbage of don't drink your fat it's just garbage. Drinking, increasing your fat is better for healing your insulin resistance, and it won't increase your proteins or your carbs at the same time. So overall, it's better for your blood sugar to do that. So, all right. So just don't believe the lies that keto is unsustainable, that it's not healthy in the long term, or that that keto is going to be too much fat, and if you eat too much fat, you won't lose weight. They're all lies. All right. So I hope you have a great keto week, and I'll see you next week for episode 6.